Hi guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the Eachine 180 FPV MiniQuad. So Banggood recently sent me this 180 Falcon FPV MiniQuad and I thought I'd show it to you. One nice thing about this is that you can actually choose what flight controller you have. You can choose up to 3, so from the CC3D to the Naze 32 and the Seriously Pro Racing flight controller. You can also choose whether it's mode 1 or mode 2. As you can see, I've gone for the ready to fly Naze 32 version, and the price does vary slightly depending on what flight controller, but only by a couple of pounds. So let's take a quick look at what you get for your money. First up is some non-branded props. These are the 4045, you get 8 in total. Inside the little white box we get a Eachine branded 1500 mAh free cell rated to 25C. A cheap mains plug adapter, and a circularly polarized antenna. In case you're wondering, this is RPSMA and is also left-hand polarized. With this being a ready-to-fly quad, also included is a fairly generic cheap 2 to 3 cell charger. This has an average of a 700 mAh output, so it's probably going to take around 2 hours to charge your 1500 mAh battery, although on the front it does say an 800 mAh max, and its input is from a 2-pronged power port. There is also a very small manual for this, but the charger is very basic, so you shouldn't really need it. For some reason you get a bind plug and also a power cable for powering the charger. Again, I'd just throw this away and use a proper UK plug. Moving on to the controller, you are provided with Eachine's i6, so this is a 6-channel programmable radio, and I'll show you how to get into the radio programming menu later on. On the rear of the radio you have the trainer port, and it is powered by 4 AA batteries. So let's have a look at the quad itself. So the frame is obviously 180 sized, and it also comes ready to fly, so that means with a video transmitter and camera already installed. Out the box it is also installed with 10-degree motor angle mounts, and those motors are actually MT2204 2300 kV. So I chose the Naze 32 flight controller over the CC3D and the Seriously Pro. The CC3D I've just never really got on with, and the Seriously Pro has a bit of a problem with vibration, so I didn't really want to take too much risk. Looking at the rear we can see our 40-channel VTX, which does cover race band, and as I mentioned earlier it does use RPSMA. Also on the rear is the LED light bar, which looks a little bit overcomplicated, but this is easily removed. It just unplugs from the servo prongs. Because this is so easily removed, I can imagine this falling off during some crashes. The only thing holding it onto the frame is an Eachine sticker, so if you pull hard enough you'll see that it just pops out. The VTX covers 5 bands using 8 channels, and you will be able to easily switch between these using the button which is just inside the frame here. The ESCs are called Fairy. I've never actually come across these before, but they are 20 amp rated with a 30 amp burst and are 3 to 4 cell compatible. The quad itself sits very tall off the ground just to give you the clearance for the LED rear bar. I can imagine again you breaking these legs very easily just because they are protruding so much. Up front we've got a vibration isolated FPV camera. Now it is a CMOS camera, which is a little bit of a letdown. I would have preferred the CCD. The camera does foul on the support ring at the front when it's in certain angles too. Just underneath the 3mm bottom plate you can see the receiver there, which is set up in a PWM configuration. Weight wise, without props and battery, it weighs in at a porky 343.2 grams. I tried to use clean flight when I first plugged this into the computer and it didn't work, so then I tried base flight, and as you can see we've got everything working here. I wanted to see if they actually configured the Naze 32 Rev 6 before actually shipping it out, and most of it was fine, but I would suggest making a few changes. These are the stock PIDs that it came with. I see the pitch, roll and yaw are all set to 0, so I would say to bring them up some. I also noticed that channel 5, which is your flight mode, had not been configured, so it was basically flying in acro mode. Now for some strange reason they configured channel 5 on one of the dial knobs, and if you're changing flight modes then you really want that on a 3 position switch at least. Now the i6 controller had me worried for a little while because, as you can see when I'm pressing the buttons, we're not actually getting anything. We can't go into any of the menus, and this is supposed to be a programmable controller. So I think it's worth me actually showing you how to get into that menu. All you need to do is pull the 2 trim tabs into the middle and then turn the radio on. Then when you hold the OK button, you'll see that you can actually get into the menu system. So once we're in the menu, we're going to need to navigate through to our aux channels, and we're going to need to change channel 5. As you can see at the moment, it's set to VRA, which is this dial on the top left. That's not really ideal for a flight control switch, so we're going to change this to switch C, which is the top right and is the largest of the switches. This just makes it easier for changing flight modes. Once you've changed it to switch C, then hold the cancel button and it will save it and exit. You can go back in pressing OK just to make sure that it has definitely saved. Once you're done, just keep pressing cancel until you come out into the main menu. Now we can just check this whilst it's plugged into the computer on base flight, and moving that switch we can see that our channel 5, which is our flight control, is now moving up and down. You can then go through to the mode selection side and set up your flight control modes. You can set these up to however you normally set them up. I have them usually as angle, horizon and then acro. Also, don't forget to press save when you've done it. So let's get this little thing prepped for a flight. Now I did notice that the RPSMA antenna does stick out quite a bit, and it's probably going to end up snapping off when we crash. And I imagine that the LED bar won't be far behind. When it comes to fitting the battery, it's actually a bit of a struggle. I managed to get it in though, and then I realised that I haven't got the battery strap around it, and it's going to be almost impossible to get the strap around it in its current position. So basically I gave up and just stuck it on the top with the strap where it is. This shouldn't really be a problem, as I fly most of my quads with the battery on the top, as does most people. Now the LED bar on the back is pre-programmed, so if you push forward it goes green, when you pull back it goes to red, then when you make any rolls it will start to indicate. The more you push the roll, then the faster that indicates. So I'll just quickly show you the first flight. You'll notice that I have to pull back quite a lot because of the 10-degree angle motor mounts. And you'll see the red light coming on showing you that I'm pulling back. So this actually shows you that the stock PIDs that it came with do actually work, and I haven't actually changed any of the pitch, roll or yaw yet. This is literally out of the box settings, so you would really turn them up. It's also been a very long time since I flew on free cell, so I wasn't used to the lack of power. And as you can see, it can take a little bit of a crash too. And after a little bit more of purposeful crash testing, I decided to take this outside into the garden to give it its first outdoor test using the FPV equipment. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the DVR video footage that comes from that CMOS camera. As I mentioned, I would have preferred a CCD camera rather than the CMOS, because it does really struggle in lighting conditions, especially as this is sunset at the moment, so when I turn around you see how bad the picture actually ends up looking. I'm not sure why manufacturers still choose to use these cameras, because they really are poor performance when it comes to FPV. But the quad itself flew relatively fine, didn't have any major problems, and as you see I was able to fly around the swing set without any problems. The onboard microphone also worked a treat. So that's my first look at this 180 ready to fly quad. Could it do with some improvements? Well, I would say I would change the camera out, because that's probably the weakest link on this quad. Also, some 1306 3100 kV motors may have worked a little bit better if you were using just free cells, but they've probably just used the MT2204s, because most people will end up going up to 4 cell. Anyway, that's it for today's video guys. Thanks for watching, I'll be back soon.